Well, it's Advent, which means that Christmas is coming. Well, at church, it's more accurate to say Christ is coming. In the secular world and the retailers, they are all getting ready for Christmas and the shopping sprees the season inspires. But we have a different focus in the church. At Advent, we await the second coming of Christ by being reminded of the birth of Jesus in the world. We steep ourselves in the stories of shepherds and angels and stars and mangers. I love the Christmas story. I love how it brings everyone together to focus on hope and goodwill to all. And I enjoy the anticipation of waiting for the coming of Christ, the birth of love and light in the world, in a broken world of darkness. But I love the way everyone gets more friendly at Christmas time with greetings of Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. The whole world becomes a Hallmark movie, and people focus on kindness and generosity. But that's not how the Christmas story begins, and we see that in our reading today. There's no birth narrative in the Gospel of Mark. Instead, Mark gives us a little apocalypse on the first Sunday of Advent. Mark begins with suffering and darkness and the stars falling from the heavens. Wait a minute, where are the angels and the shepherds and the sparkles? These are not words of comfort that we are looking for. This is not that. We like the sentimental Christmas cards. Not the sun and the moon in darkness. Our reality is dark enough. This year has been one of violence and catastrophe. The Holy Land is at war. In Gaza and Israel, thousands of lives have been lost in bombings and attacks. Many of those deaths were of innocent children. And then the sovereign democratic country of Ukraine was attacked by Russia for the sake of power and greed. And the war continues. It seems as if our own democracy is under distress too. Here in this country, our leaders are more concerned with self-serving motives, more concerned with self-serving than serving the people and their country. Women and people of color and LGBTQ people find their rights and liberties stripped away, while the rich white folk hold on to power by any means necessary. All of a sudden, Mark's little apocalypse sounds familiar. In one of the commentaries I read, Julia Seymour has a perfect metaphor. You know that magic trick where the magician yanks a tablecloth off a table set with dishes? So Seymour points out that this trick depends on three things. The tablecloth has to be smooth with no hem. The magician yanks down, not out. And the existence of Newton's first law of motion, inertia. The smooth cloth slides easily under the dishes when the magician pulls down, and inertia keeps everything neatly in place, enabling the musician to take a triumphant bow. But lately, our world feels like a tablecloth being yanked out from under us, but this time there's a big, bulky hem, and we are surrounded by shards of glass. The hem of systemic racism and hate, the hem of violence and war, the hem of selfishness and greed, the hem of deceit and mistrust, the hem of poverty, scarcity, and uncertainty, the hem of illness, isolation, death, and grief. Those hems caught us off guard, and our world came crashing down around us. We are just barely hanging on. And maybe that's how Mark's audience felt too. The destruction of the temple, the oppression and persecution of the Roman Empire, the false prophets leading you astray. One of my commentaries said it like this: amid the smoke of battle, the fog of politics, the confusion of economic distress, the babble of would-be leaders wearing God masks and claiming divine authority, how shall we know which way to turn? The Gospel of Mark is giving us a message in this little apocalypse. Contrary to popular belief and a lucrative book series, an apocalypse is not meant to be used as a crystal ball to predict the future, but as a lens, exposing reality now. One of the aspects of apocalypse is revelation. So what is God revealing to us through this text? What is Jesus inviting his disciples to see? The text continues with Jesus giving the disciples hope. He talks about the tender green fig tree heralding the hope and assurance of summer. He's giving his disciples hope on the night before he is to be arrested. I know it's confusing. This reading is at the end of Jesus' life when Christmas is supposed to be talking about his birth. But the gospel writer is making a point. The darkness of the crucifixion leads to the joy of the resurrection. In the cross, there is hope. Today we lit the first candle on the Advent wreath, the candle of hope. Even though it feels as if we are surrounded by broken china, Jesus tells us there is hope. The Christmas story beckons hope, the hope of a star, the hope of a birth, even in the midst of an apocalypse. We wait. We wait for God with us to be revealed in the world. This isn't a sedentary waiting. We have work to do. Keep awake. Be ready, Jesus says. It would be so easy to wallow in the rubble of destruction, but that is not what followers of Jesus do. We can set the table again, but let's not set it the same way. Let's set the table differently this time. Let's set the table where everyone has a place, no matter where they were born, the color of their skin, their religion, who they love, or what pronouns they use. Our table will be big enough for all. We will smooth out the hems of inequity, poverty, racism, and hate. In fact, we won't use a tablecloth at all. We will fill our new table with justice, love, and healing. We will make placemats of kindness and generosity and use silverware of compassion and hope. We don't need a magician. We are followers of Christ, and we will transform the world with hope. This year, let's do things differently. Maybe it'll keep us alert and awake. Let us be present to the gifts around us. Let us anticipate the hope of Christ even when the stars are falling from the sky. This Advent season, may all we do fill the world with hope and reveal God with us Emmanuel. Amen.